your upbringing as well. One of the things that we do in the Black Business School that I think is really awesome and innovative is we educate the entire family. We go deeper than most universities do. The most HBCUs. I don't know of an HBCU or any or even a predominantly white university that teaches Black wealth the way we teach Black wealth. And one of the things that we do is I get together with PhDs and therapists and economic scientists to really figure out best practices. We erase the whole playbook and say, okay, what's going to be required to help us really change this thing? How do we really take this to the next level instead of us sort of hovering around with this big racial wealth gap and us sort of assuming that because you're black, that means you're going to be a day late and a dollar short, $10 behind, and just always sort of trying to play catch up in a race that you'll never catch up in, right? Almost like it reminds me maybe of like student loans, which unfortunately turns a lot of our people into sharecroppers. Basically, what they would do to sharecroppers is they would put you in a ton of debt, that you'd be in so much debt that you'll never ever get out of debt. But you always think that you could possibly get out of debt, so you keep trying to get out of debt, right? They give you just enough hope to keep you working, just enough hope to make sure you're showing up every day, but not enough hope for that dream to actually be realized. Most sharecroppers could never work themselves out of debt, just like a lot of students, a lot of black people that go to college and all that never work themselves out of student loan debt. So they end up dying with a negative net worth, which means that you would have made more money by not being born than you did by working for 50 years of your life. And so remember though, wealth is not really created or destroyed. It's like when they say energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes hands. Well, you can say the same thing about wealth. Wealth isn't really created or destroyed. It just goes from one place to the next. So while you're sitting here and you're grinding away and your wealth is going down as you're working hard every day, somebody's wealth is going up. And I've explained to you all in terms of how the capitalist system works. The wealth that's going up tends to be those who own businesses, those who excuse me, those who produce products, those who own real estate, etc. And so, for example, this week or just not even yesterday, just a few minutes ago, I was listening to a story about how Jeff Bezos, the billionaire who runs Amazon, just made a move to Florida so that he could save, I think, $250 million in capital gains taxes. He moved to Florida because the tax rates are lower and than they are in Washington, and he saved over $250 million by doing that. So somebody's getting rich, somebody's benefiting from your labor, somebody's winning, and my goal, my hope is that I can convince you to consider the fact that you should be the beneficiary of your own labor. I don't think that's a radical idea. Let me know. What do you think? I'm not. I don't think I'm asking you to do anything crazy. I'm not asking you to go and start the revolution with me or pick up a gun and go fight somebody. I'm not asking you to do any of that. I'm just asking you to care about yourself. Care about your kids. Put your kids first. Put your community first. Is that okay? You let me know if that's all right. Like, because I think that's it's really that basic. And the reason that very basic idea is such a challenge for black people, in my belief, if you come to Powernomics training every single Wednesday night, one thing that Dr. Claude Anderson explains so eloquently in his books, which everyone should read, every black person in America should read these books. White people need to read them too, but I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. And if you are white, you're welcome to come in here. If you want to learn from black people, we don't discriminate here. I want to make that clear. But at the same time, I'm not here to, we're not catering to nobody else. I'm catering to you. That's it. But one thing Dr. Anderson explains very well in his books is that there was a consistent effort to train black people to be just strong enough to go to work, but weak enough that they're not going to rebel against the system. To be strong enough to make amazing contributions to society, but just weak enough to not ask for anything for themselves. You were almost like the original AI. You're the original AI. Let me know if you're following this analogy. Really, when you think about AI, what is AI? AI is going to be smarter than us. AI is going to be more capable than us. AI, eventually, when they reach the singularity and they hit artificial general intelligence, AGI, look for that term. And when they hit artificial general intelligence, the AI will be smarter than us. But the reason they developed AI and the reason they're already structuring rules for AI is because they want the AI to be strong enough to contribute to society, but always understand that it's designed to serve humanity. It's designed to serve people that are higher in the caste system, right? So the same thing is true, I believe, when it comes to black people. If you look around society, you see us working extremely hard, being extremely loyal, being extremely skilled. If you watch that game, Kansas City and San Francisco, I remember, and people got mad at me for bringing this up, but I said, did you notice that during the game, the reason the game was won, if you're a football fan, you'll know this. If you go back and look at the tape, the reason that the Chiefs were able to win that game was because there were some players on defense, almost all of whom are black, particularly a guy named Chris Jones, who almost sacked the San Francisco quarterback and kept them from scoring a touchdown. He would have scored a touchdown had Chris Jones not almost sacked him. So that allowed the Chiefs to win that game. Follow me now. Stay with me. Let me know if you're following me on this analogy. So, but then when they did the post game interviews on CBS, they interviewed all pretty much all only white people. They interviewed one guy that's biracial, Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback. He deserves it. He's a great guy, great player. And then they had one black player, one guy, and none of the guys on defense, none of the black guys on defense who cleared the path for the Chiefs to even be able to win that game. Because it's hard to win a Super Bowl when you only score 25 points in an overtime game. I don't think you could ever find any Super Bowl ever where 25 points was scored in an overtime game where somebody actually won the game. Usually they would lose. You have to score at least 30 points to win a Super Bowl. And in an overtime game, it might be like 37 or 38 points. So that means that so what I'm saying, and I know some of you are not football fans, so I want you to get this. You can't so the point is that without the defense, they don't win that game. There's no chance. But when they got to the point of sharing the glory, they spent more time showing Taylor Swift Taylor Swift's boyfriend, this guy named Travis Kelsey. They interviewed a few other white guys, the owner of the Chiefs, the coach of the Chiefs, and then when they got to the one black guy they interviewed, who wasn't even on the defense, they talked to him for the shortest amount of time. He answered one question. There were no follow up questions. There was no conversation. It was like, okay, well, you go enjoy that, right? So here's my point, right? It's not me trying to convince you that somehow the NFL's rigged or that they were trying to be racist in their agenda. It really made me think because I think a lot, and I know that in our society that's thinking is not encouraged. You're encouraged to kind of go along with it, but I'm a thinker and I'm not never going to apologize for that. It made me think about America. It made me think about how similar to that Kansas City defense, who grinded away, busted their butts, put their lives on the line, stopped that team, and created the opportunity for the Chiefs to win. But yet got almost no credit, at least when it came to mainstream media. It's similar to black people. Black people have always grinded away in the basement. We get up and we go to work every day. We bust our butts. We give everything to the society, and then somebody else gets to hoist up the trophy. And I kid you not, there was literally, and this was a black person who said this. When I made that point on Instagram, I get in trouble. So people get mad at me sometimes because I just share what I'm thinking, and I can't apologize for that. I'm never going to stop doing that. So when I put this up on Instagram, literally a black person said, I mentioned Chris Jones in particular. Chris Jones is he's one of the best players on the defense, if not the best player. He's the reason that the Chiefs were able to win that game. And I said, nobody mentioned Chris Jones. I said, I'm sure Chris Jones has a great story. I'm sure there's something about his life that's interesting too, but they didn't interview him at all at the end of that game. And somebody came along and said, well, Chris Jones, he doesn't seek out the spotlight. He doesn't want the publicity. And that really bothered me too, because it's almost like people feel like your role in society is to do all the work and get none of the credit. That you are, again, go back to Dr. Anderson's books. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it sounds like I'm making everything about race, but I'm sorry. I do believe a lot of things in America are about race because you haven't fully addressed the issue. But really, in Dr. Anderson's books, I kid you not, if you read Black Labor, White Wealth, think about that title. Financial consciousness exercise, really quick, everybody. Black labor, white wealth. Black work, white reward. Black sacrifice, white benefits. We grind in the basement, they hoist up the trophy, right? That's what that is. That's what it says to me. That's sort of what Dr. Anderson says you were trained to do, to basically do all the work, not seek out the credit, not want the spotlight. I want you to process this. I mean, think about this for a minute, y'all. Think about every year. Does anybody else give me a yes if every year around Black History Month you start to get a little bit concerned and annoyed when you start finding out about all the major inventions that existed that some black person actually did and a white guy took credit for it. Does anybody notice that? It's like this avalanche of like, well, did you know that the light bulb was really invented by the slave of the guy who actually gets credit for it, whose family got billions of dollars? His family got billions of dollars. The slave's family got nothing, right? You go into even things like Henrietta Lacks and what Henrietta Lacks in her cells. If you don't know Henrietta Lacks, you got to look up her story. Tell her story to your kids. This black woman, she was eternal. Her cells, for some reason, her cells reproduced in a way that no other human being was able to do. And so they've been using Henrietta Lacks cells with these major pharmaceutical companies making drugs that were making billions of dollars. And they were using her cells, like her, I think they call it HeLa cells. Is that right? Did I get that right? HeLa cells. These HeLa cells are very famous. All my friends that went to medical school were like, oh, yeah, everybody knows about the HeLa cells, right? So they were using this black woman's cells to create these multi-billion-dollar drugs. That's wealth that's supposed to be coming to us. That's our money. And that those are just two examples. That's just two. I mean, there's a million of them. It's so ultimately, I think that when you think about capitalism, I want you to really process this and just understand that everything that I bring up, people aren't going to go fix it just because we know it's true. Just because I bring it up, I don't believe in things like allies. I don't believe people are ever going to love you enough to give their wealth away and give their power away. But what I want you to do is to have this awareness, share this awareness with your kids, and then what's an action item that you can give them? Well, you can tell them like, "Hey, look, when we go out here and we work hard, we're going to work smart. We're going to bust out of our brainwashing. We're not going to be programmed. We're not going to go out here and just be ready to just do all the sacrifices so somebody else can get all the benefits. We're going to sacrifice so that the family gets the benefits. We're going to take everything that we have, all the greatness that's locked inside our DNA, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure all that circles back right here to this household, right here to this family, right here to us. Do you understand? So all I'm really talking about when I break down economics like this for you with you guys every single morning, we do this every morning at 10 a.m. My goal is to just make sure that you just do what's best for you long term. Whether you're talking about voting, vote in a way that's best for you. If you talk about making money, make your money in a way that's best for you. That's all I want you to do. Okay. So a couple things I want to mention too is we do study Dr. Claude Anderson books every Wednesday night. We have Powernomics training. It's totally free. It's from the Black Business School. We've been doing it for about 5 years now. If you'd like to join us, just text the word greatness to 87948. Text greatness to 87948. Last night I couldn't make it. I apologize, but I was down for the count, y'all. I was down. I feel better today. I'm not 100%, but I'm strong enough to come back. I don't like missing more than one day. So if you text the word greatness to 87948, you can join us on Wednesdays, and I'll send you a link to register. And then also, don't forget that we have the All Black National Convention. It's going to be in Chicago, October 25th through the 27th. So if you want to come to Chicago and hang out with us and meet like-minded people, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com if you haven't gone yet. So, all right. So let me pull up my slides really quick so we can kind of dig into this whole issue with kids. Okay, so the thing with kids is I don't think it's an exaggeration when you really say I believe the children are the future. And to give you an economic consciousness exercise, I'm going to actually give you this the third commandment in the book. By the way, we're studying from the book The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So you go to drboycebooks.com, you can get a copy of the book. You can also get a copy of all these slides in a study guide that I put together for you guys. There's over 112 pages here we're going to cover. So the third commandment of Black economic power that every family should consider is that Black wealth must be a rite of passage. Black wealth must be a rite of passage. That means that this must be almost something that you have to do in order to be a grown up, in order to move to the next level of life. Uh, so you can move past economic immaturity. Economic immaturity is where you still think like a child when it comes to money. If you ask a 5 year old, if you give, let me answer this in the chat. If I give a 5 year old $20 and I say, what are you going to do with that money? What's the 5 year old going to say? Give me some answers. Give me some examples of things that the 5 year old might say. What do you think the 5 year old might buy with their money if you gave them $20? Is he going to say, "Oh, well, the light bill's due, and well, I got to put money in my 401k"? You think the 5 year old's going to say it? No, they're going to say, "Thank you, Pat." They're gonna talk about candy and toys. Veronica, I thought you and Dr. Leach. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. We did hang out for Valentine's Day, Veronica. We just but I wasn't the best husband on Valentine's Day. I was a little bit out of it. Michael says candy. Yep, candy, right? Candy or chips, toys, etc. Right? Well, when you look around, there are a lot of people who think the same way, even at the age of 30. They get $1 million or $2 million because they made a great record deal or something, and they go out and they buy toys and they buy fun, silly things. They're not talking about infrastructural investments in their lives and the lives of others. They're not coming out and saying, hey, I decided to take some of my money and invest in a real estate complex that's going to give affordable housing to lots of people. They don't say, I'm going to take this money and I'm making some major business deals that are going to create jobs for other people from my hometown. I'm a rapper. I came from this poor little city. I decided I wanted to use $3 million of my money and then raise another 10 million to actually do things that will create jobs for people in the city, so that my wealth will impact the wealth of the people that supported me from the beginning. Right? That's economic maturity. Basically, these are what I might call grown man deals, grown man thinking, grown woman thinking. And you don't always see that. And I personally am a believer that the conspiracy theory that I fully bought into is this idea that society is wired in such a way that they want to keep the black man as a little child. They don't want the black man to grow up. That's why the black men that you look up to the most are people that are either entertaining other people, or they are wearing like sports uniforms like kids. Right? Remember, last time I wore a basketball uniform was when I was 12 years old. But a lot of the men that you look up to the most are guys who are still wearing these basketball uniforms or whatever. And there's not, when you look on the other side and I see the most sort of, I don't know if admired, but the most powerful white males, I see them wearing suits as politicians, or I see them like Jeff Bezos, and he's running this multi-billion dollar company that's created over 1 million jobs. Elon Musk is building rocket ships to go to Mars. I see intellectual platforms where people are allowed to really express intelligent ideas. And then I go to the black side and I see, like, Shade Room and just a lot of silliness, right? Or Club Shay Shay and Cat Williams roasting all the other comedians and everything else. And I'm not saying these things are not important. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a space for that, but that shouldn't be, in my opinion, the dominant space, because there are so many important issues to address. But the most interesting thing for many of us that we wake up thinking about are our comedians. We literally think about the clowns before we're thinking about anything else. And I think that that's by design. I think that they kind of want us sort of thinking this way. So here's one thing I'll also mention too, in terms of a lack of perspective when it comes to understanding the value of your children. I believe that other people see the value of black children more than some black people see the value of our children. I believe other people, they see your child and they say, okay, this little boy, I can make money off this little black boy. If I condition his mind in a certain way and I get him thinking about certain things in a certain way, if I get him into football camp, I can make money from him as an athlete. If I get him into the prison system, I can make money from him as a prison inmate. If I get him into the school to prison pipeline, I get to make money from him every day when he shows up to school, even if he's not getting educated. If I get him to be trained to be a consumer of consumer items, where he'll run off and buy some Louis and Gucci in a minute, then I'm going to make money like that. If I can get him to the corporate plantation, I can make money from him that way. If I get him into college, I can make money off his student loans. So every single one of your children is a cash cow for other people if you are overcommitted to that system. Um, I don't know if we see the value of our kids, in the sense that I don't know if we even feel empowered enough to know that we should be the ones extracting the value from the kids, right? I don't think there's a lot of outrage over the fact that the NCAA makes billions of dollars every year from black athletes. Without black athletes, there is no NCAA, not in the form that it is right now. I don't think that we have enough outrage over the fact that hip hop music was stolen from the black community. I don't think we have enough understanding of how much we're giving away every day when all of us are trained to get up and go to work, and we spend more time with our boss than we spend with our kids. We spend more time with our boss than we spend with our spouse. We spend more time with our boss than we spend with our parents. And then your parents get old and they die, and but yet your boss is saying, "Hey, Negro, come back to work." Let me know if you've ever seen this. In fact, I'll give you a real life example. I had a friend who messaged me one time, and she said, Boyce, I used to ignore a lot of what you had to say because I thought you were too radical. And the turning point for me was, my mother was on her deathbed. She said her mother had cancer and she only had 6 months to live. So that, which was just mortifying for her, because her mother was her best friend. That was all she really had. So like any other loving child, she wanted to spend every waking moment with her mother. She wanted to be with her mother as much as possible because the Grim Reaper had sent a little note saying your mama's not going to be here in 6 months. You better get it in while you can. So she wanted to spend every single second with her mother. So while she was spending as much time with her mother as she could, she got to the point where her boss said, "If you don't come to work, you're going to get fired." So she said, when I had to leave my mother's bedside to go to this stupid job, she said that was when I understood what you had been saying all along. Because I did not want to go to work. I did not want to spend all my time at work. I needed to spend time with my mother. And now her mother's gone. And she has a lot of regrets because of that. So ultimately, one belief that I have is that the benefit. How about this? Instead of being negative, why don't we talk about the benefits of gaining economic consciousness? Is that you can avoid having to make those horribly difficult choices. There's nothing at your job that's going to be more important than spending time with your dying mother. There's nothing at your job that's going to matter more to you than making sure your kids are okay. Nothing. And and the reason this requires some independent thinking is because every single force that you see when you turn on that TV and it's programming your brain, it's designed to do that. TV programming, the word programming is appropriate for a lot of reasons. It's programming you to really believe that this stuff that you're doing at this job is the most important thing you have going on in your life. When I talk to our kids, I don't even talk to them about what career they're going to have when they get older. We explored a little bit, but I'm like, well, actually, the benefit of having a bonus dad who's a finance professor is I can show you how to make money. Me figuring out how to make money is like a chef figuring out how to cook a meal. Like I can show you how to make money. And I can just tell you that going to work every day and being around these racist people that hate your guts, that's a very hard way to make money. That's a really hard way. I know people that grind like crazy just to bring home that $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Lots of us, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I can show you how to make $3,000 in 3 minutes. Let me show you. So I pull out my phone and I show her an app and I show her how to sell stock options. I say, okay, you see how much that is? Yes. How much is that? $3,422. Yeah, watch this. Boom. I hit the button. It's in my account. So in 34 seconds, I showed you how to make as much money as some people make in a month. But it took time. Do you understand? This is not something that happens overnight. And that's when I explained to them that preparation is the key to success. That's the number one statement. If you go to our youngest and you say, what is the thing that Boyce repeats to you over and over and over again? I bet $1 million on this. She will say, preparation is the key to success. Why? Well, because yeah, sure, I can hit a couple buttons and make $3,000, but it didn't happen because I woke up on Tuesday and decided to do this. It's because when I was 21 years old, I was busting my butt and studying every day when a lot of my friends are going to step shows and hanging out and drinking and everything else. Right? It's because I grinded through my PhD program, even though everything in the world told me to quit. I just had to keep going because I had nowhere else to go. Right? And I could keep going down the list. So this preparation, in my opinion, here's the thing. I don't even know if I'm saying this right. Sometimes I say things in such a forceful way because I believe it so passionately, and sometimes it comes out mean. Sometimes it comes out like I sound. I've been accused of being arrogant, and I've been accused of being just abusively mean to people or looking down on people. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just trying to express to you that there's a process, there's a formula, right? And what I'm trying to really do is help share the formula so that we can get our kids out of this mud that many of us swam in for many, many years. That's what I'm trying to do. So if I ever say something and you say, "Man, Dr. Boyce sounds like a jerk today," just know it's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a place of saying, "Come on now." Like it's me sharing the vision I have in front of me. I see it very clearly, but it's in a way, it's like those Apple Vision Pro goggles where maybe I'm seeing augmented reality or supplemented reality. I'm not seeing what you're seeing all the time. I'm seeing what I'm not seeing what's there. I'm seeing what could be there. I'm seeing what should be there. You understand? So when I'm screaming, I'm like, no, it's right there. Put it right there. It's right there. Right? It's really me talking about what I'm actually seeing. I've got these Vision Pro glasses on, and it makes sense, right? Because I mean, what good is a whole PhD in finance if you don't have some sort of economic vision? So my economic vision for you is one that far exceeds the BS that we see out here in society right now. It exceeds anything that these dumb politicians are saying. I call them dumb. I think they're all dumb. I had a not all of them, but most of them. They get on my nerves. There were politicians who wanted to come on my platform, and everyone said that would be a great honor to interview that Kennedy guy. And I was like, why? It bores me. There's nothing about that interview that would even be worth my time. I'd rather spend time with my wife and my kids. I don't want to go talk to a politician. I'd rather be talking to you. Do you understand? So ultimately, there are possibilities out here, there are solutions, but we have to be solution oriented. We have to focus as much on preventing the problem as we focus on reacting to the problem. And that's one of your biggest challenges, is that the lack of vision causes us to have a reactive culture as opposed to a proactive culture. Do you know the difference? Reactive is where I sit there, do nothing, and then when something bad happens, I react to the things that happen. It's very hard to fix a problem by having to go back in the past. You can't build a time machine. Proactive means that I foresee the possibility of the problem and I prevent the problem before the problem becomes a problem. Do you understand? And we don't live in a proactive culture. We live in a reactive culture. That is what I also would call a victim culture. Because I could go and I could talk to somebody. Here's the thing. There are so many people. Tell me if you go through this. Some of y'all already get this. And tell me if you had this experience. Have you ever had somebody that was just doing stupid stuff in their life and you love them so much and you wanted to just warn them, like, if you keep doing that stupid stuff, bad things are going to happen? Anybody ever go through that, and you're trying to tell them, you're like, you see it as plain as day, like, you keep going down that road, this is what's going to happen to you, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. So when is the time when you get their attention the most? When the consequences come calling, when chickens come home to roost, when suddenly whatever little stupid harebrained scheme they had going on falls apart, and they calling you from jail, they calling you because they about to get evicted, they calling you because her baby daddy ain't doing right, whatever, right? Whatever little thing you were warning him about, whatever little thing you were talking to them about, when those consequences come, because you love them, because you're in their family or whatever, they're going to get on the phone with you and ask you to go fix a problem that could have easily been prevented. And that is incredibly frustrating. That just makes you so mad. And I don't know how to deal with that. I only know how to tell you what I'm saying. And so a lot of these economic challenges that we might run into are easily prevented, but you have to change your perspective. This is why we talk about financial consciousness or financial vision. Financial vision, financial consciousness is the ability to elevate. Remember, consciousness, you talk about dimensions, going up to another dimension where you can not just see what's in front of you, but you can see what is going to happen. You can see what could happen. Do you understand? That's what I mean when I talk about consciousness and vision and dimensionality. What I'm referring to is playing chess and not checkers. That's all it is. Chess players think differently from checker players. Checker players think about the next move that is in reaction to the last move. A chess player is thinking 5, 6, 7, 8 moves down the board. Do you understand? That's what financial consciousness is all about. The people that tend to dominate the world right now, economically, are people who think on a higher level. They're making plans. They got plans for you, and you don't even know these people exist. Gentrification didn't just happen because somebody woke up one day and said, "Hey, let's go take over black neighborhoods." Gentrification happened because somebody looked at a raggedy neighborhood in 1972 and said, if we invested a couple $100 million in this neighborhood, we could actually make it really nice and increase the value of the property and then sell it at a high premium and make a profit for ourselves." That's what happened. That's how gentrification came along. So all the while, somebody in 1972 is thinking, I'm going to go start buying up entire city blocks in this raggedy neighborhood that nobody wants. The people in those neighborhoods, not all of them, but many of them, many of us, we're just thinking about how we're going to pay the rent by Saturday, right? Or we're just thinking about, we're like, why would anybody want to live in this neighborhood? I want to go live next to white folks. I'm gonna move. Our goal, our dream is to move to the suburbs so we can get away from this. And I get it. I understand because that's one of the reasons why it's very important to satisfy those lower level needs. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy. The reason that it's important to satisfy the lower level needs is because that allows you that space for higher level thinking. It's hard for a person to think on level 4 when they've got all these level 1, level 2 problems that they have to deal with. So part of success, part of having financial consciousness or financial vision is giving yourself that space to elevate, which means shutting down all the distractions. So that means being very conscious about who is in your life, who you're listening to, who you're having conversations with, how you spend your time. Do you understand? If you do those things, then you can clear your mind and be able to sort of focus on this higher level thinking. But I can't be a high level thinker if I'm dealing with level two issues, level one issues. It's not something, and in fact, even in my house, I do this a lot. My wife will get mad at me because I forgot to pick up my socks or put the clothes in the laundry or I left a mess in the kitchen or whatever. And I pay attention. I mean, I respond to it because it does keep me down to earth, but I don't like to keep my feet on earth. I like for my head to be in the clouds a little bit so I can see the bigger visions. Okay. So let me go ahead and talk about this rite of passage. Okay. So and as we do this, one more thing I want to mention too is that we do have a Black business school for children in the Black business school called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. If you want to participate or add your kids or just learn what's in there, just text the word youth to 87948. If you text youth to 87948, we'll send you some information about the program and you can decide if you'd like to join. We have three components to it. We have the digital program where your child can get actually a certificate, like almost like a little baby bachelor's degree in things like real estate, stock market investing, stuff like that. But then also in entrepreneurship, we also have a program in that. We even have a program in crypto. And in case you haven't noticed, Bitcoin has been skyrocketing, and crypto understanding could be something that opens doors economically in terms of their thinking. And also the second element is we have flashcards. Flashcards are a great tool to learn basic financial concepts that'll make a massive difference. So we have those, and then we have flashcards in all different areas from even with the fun financial flashcards. My book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, has flashcards that go with it. If you want to teach your child the concepts from this book, we have flashcards on real estate, stuff like that. We also have workbooks. The workbooks cover every single grade band. We spent 3 years working with Black educators to put together financial workbooks that our children can absorb at an early age, and we split them into different age groups. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com if you'd like to take a look at any of that, or you can also text the word youth to 87948, and I'll send you some information. All right. So Black wealth must be a rite of passage. We have to be as good at wealth as we are at basketball, football, rapping, and twerking. Okay. And so to make that a rite of passage, let's think about this, what this looks like. Every Black child in America should know the fundamentals of wealth. Every Black child in America needs to know the fundamentals of wealth. Why? Because money is the most important thing in the world for a lot of these young people, or at least in the top three. Money's the number one reason for divorce. Money's the number one reason for people to take penitentiary chances and do terrible things. I just read something today, literally, where even an understanding of money is important. I literally tweeted at Shannon Sharp, the Club Shay Shay guy, and I said, I said, I really hope you'll reconsider promoting gambling to young men because 50% of all gambling addicts end up engaging in criminal behavior to support their gambling addiction. So ultimately, the ability to make money and have money and all these other things is really important to young people. So why not have them learn money? I mean, think about this. We spend so much time learning things that we're never going to use. Give me a yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Like, do you think about how many things? I bet you don't even use 75% of what you learned in high school. How many of you would agree with that statement that we literally don't use it on a daily basis? 75% of the stuff we learned in high school. I remember in high school learning like European history. What in the hell am I going to do with that? I remember learning the periodic table. I'm not a chemist. It's sure it's important information for sure, but I'm not a chemist. But I do have to pay my taxes. I do have to take care of my wife and kids. How about you teach me those things? How about you teach me how to be a good husband? How about you? I take a class on how to be a great father. How about I take a class on how to be healthy and stay in shape? How about I take a class on how to make money? How about those things? How about we do that before we get to the point where you got me reading Edgar Allan Poe, books I still don't even care about or understand at this point in my life. Right? So a lot of education is a waste of time, but the right education can be a beautiful use of time. So, what else? Kids should learn wealth as early as they learn basketball, football, dancing, and church. I compare it to church because if you were to ask anybody who goes to church, do you remember the first time you came to church? How many of you, give me a yes, how many of you could tell me, yes or no? How many of you could tell me the first day you ever came to church? First day you ever came to church? Anybody? I'm gonna look in the chat here. How many of you can say yes? Okay. I see. Yeah, Veronica says no. Ayana says yes. Cheryl says no. Zoe says no. Stuart says no. Right. Stephanie says exactly what I was thinking. Like usually for most of us, you were too young. You don't remember the first time you went to church because your grandma took you to church when you were a newborn baby. You were literally a week old, and your grandma was showing you off to the church, and you're this little week old baby that your mama just gave birth to. That was my experience anyway. I don't remember the first time I went to church. So I think the same way kids don't remember the first time they went to church, or maybe a great basketball player doesn't remember the first time he touched a basketball. I don't think our kids should be able to remember the first time they were taught about economics. I think it should be ingrained in their soul. It should be something that's just, it's like it was just there. I don't know where it came from. It was just there. So ultimately, when you do that, what you're doing is you're programming the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the greatest asset in the world, or it could be the greatest weapon in the world if it's used against you. Let's keep going here. So if you send your kids to training early, it gives them these things. It gives them, number one, a sense of validation. When you define them as a wealth builder at an early age, that interrupts the process. That's a pattern interrupt that interrupts the world's ability to get them to define themselves as a thug, or as a class clown, or as a rapper, or just as an athlete. The world defines our kids, and our kids absorb and internalize those identities, and it causes them to reject alternative possibilities for themselves when they get older. So what you do is you define them before everybody else does. Those are your kids. You should be telling them who they're going to be, not society. um, Early exposure to economic concepts that shape their lives when they get older. It also gives them a competitive advantage. A lot of people don't even learn wealth in college, but even business school students don't learn how to start businesses. And really, I figured out when I was at Syracuse University that it's great that kids get introduced to wealth when they're 18, 19, or 20, but I don't want you to be equal to everyone else. I want you to beat everyone else. I want you ahead of everyone else. So I said, well, what happens if you just introduce your kids to wealth when they're 5 or when they're 9? That's going to give them a 10, 15-year head start over everybody else. And that's what creates superstars. Steph Curry, the NBA star, there's video of him learning how to shoot a basketball when he was 2. So I don't want us to just create people, young people that can survive. Survive. How much fun? It's no fun to just survive a system. Surviving means you avoided more pain. That's all surviving means. Survivalnomics. There's nothing interesting about survivalnomics. I know that we think of ourselves as people who just survive, survive, survive. I don't want you to survive. I want you to thrive. I want the world to be your child's playground. I want them to feel like, no, I'm not just surviving. I'm not doing strugglenomics. I'm not just surviving this thing. I'm actually thriving. I'm shaping my own reality. So really, if you want to be great at something, you just start early. It's very simple. It's very easy math. It's just different from the way everyone else thinks. What else? Let's keep going here. Also, if you create a family culture that values the building and preservation of wealth, then you'll find that there's a lot more wealth in the family. I think that little basic things like family business meetings can go a long way, or really just sort of looking at your family assets, and really your assets are going to be in 3 key areas. It's going to be in the stocks that you own, the real estate you own, and the businesses that you run, or maybe businesses that you own, even if you don't run them. Just sort of looking at that and kind of beginning that thought process of saying, I benefit most, we benefit most, the family benefits most when we're pouring into assets and acquiring and accumulating assets that can actually be touched, that are real, that are actually in our portfolio. And what I mean by touched and real, I don't mean something physically that you can touch. I'm talking about something where I can say that I'm better off financially because look, I used to own $10,000 worth of stock. Now we own 15. And then, and then after so many years, we own $30,000 worth or $100,000 worth. These sort of measuring sticks to determine your economic stability, as opposed to looking at the primitive things that don't add up, like what kind of job you have, how much money you make, what kind of car you drive, what kind of apartment you live in. Those are not measures of wealth, or nor are they measures of financial security. And then what happens is, within one generation, you can create your own family bank. Because all a bank is basically just this place where a bunch of resources have been gathered, where a big capital base has been established, and that capital base is there for those who either want to take advantage of financial opportunities or those who want to avoid financial catastrophes, who need financial support. One or the other. That's what a bank is used for. A bank is either used for people to borrow where they can take a little bit out of the resource pool to take advantage of an investment, or they say, hey, I'm having trouble. Can you loan me some money and help me smooth my income? They call this income smoothing. That's all a bank is used for. So if you have resources, if you have money that you can turn to, in case of an emergency, then you pretty much got your own bank. If you have money that you can turn to in the case that you decide to start a business or make an investment, well, you kind of got your own bank. And black people have to have our own banks because white banks don't really loan money to black people like that. They just don't. The discrimination is very, very real. And the $5 a day plan that we do in the Black Business School is pretty much your kid's way of having their own bank. If you have a newborn child and you do the $5 a day plan and your child has $250,000 by the time they're 30, then there's nothing they can pretty much do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. If they want to quit their job, they can do that. If they want to buy a house, they can do that. If they want to get married, they can do that. If they want to go back to school, they can do that. If they want to make an investment in stocks or whatever, they can do that. They've got a capital base they can turn to that will provide the resources that they need and the cushion that they need, right? And it's not just the financial benefits; it's just it's really the emotional side of it. I don't know if anybody else went through this, but in my 20s, I was stressed out constantly because I felt like I was scraping against the bottom of the barrel. I felt like I was an inch away from devastation all the time. It's a terrible feeling. You shouldn't be sort of hoisting your booty up so you don't put your butt in the lava. Like that's how it feels to be black sometimes, financially speaking. At least that's how I felt in my 20s. I felt like if I slipped a little bit, if I dropped my guard a little bit, literally like my butt would sink down into the lava and I would just burn my butt. That's how it feels. It's very scary, and financial anxiety is very, very real. And my wife and I have spent a lot of time studying and analyzing financial anxiety, and the information is quite fascinating. In fact, my wife has a whole workbook on how to manage your financial anxiety. If you want to go take a look at it at drboycebooks.com, if you look up the word Alicia or anxiety or financial anxiety, you can find her workbook there. But that's what she counsels people on. She says, when I see all my clients, my wife is a therapist, by the way. She says whenever I see clients, about at least half the time, maybe 70% of the time, there's some sort of financial anxiety issue that's stressing them out, either individually or as a couple. The couple's fighting because they're fighting over money. It's going back and forth over money. So really, a lot of these problems, when you are doing this, when you're endowing your child with things like the $5 a day plan, which by the way, I can send that to you. If you text the word stock to 87948, text stock to 87948, and I'll send you the plan. Basically, what you're doing is you're helping them get in a position where they have a little bit of a cushion and they can actually enjoy their life. They can do things out of desire as opposed to doing things out of necessity. They're not always in emergency mode. They're not always in this constant state where their cortisol levels are extremely high. Again, I don't know if anybody else has gone through that, but I remember being, when I was financially stressed, you're always kind of ready for battle. You're always scared of the next thing that might happen to you. And that's not a healthy way to live. That kills you. That actually causes you to die younger. I don't know if y'all know that. Studies show there was a study at Harvard University that said that black men die younger than everyone else, largely because of financial anxiety that comes mostly from the corporate plantation. Literally, the black man's inability to get the job he wants, to get the pay that he wants, and to his inability to be treated fairly on that job causes so much stress that these men die young from heart disease and all these preventable illnesses. So if you have a son and you love him, you will protect him by making sure that he has resources so he can make smart decisions in his life and not feel like he's always under this pressure. The same thing is true with your daughters as well, though, right? Because you see these poor girls with no financial support from their family. Nobody made a plan for them. So they're just kind of out here just doing only God knows what in order to get the bills paid. And I don't think that's a good way to live. I don't think that's not something I'd want to do to my kids. And so these things are easily preventable. So either if you don't have a lot of money, which is fine, a lot of us don't, you do have a lot of time. If you have a new child, a newborn baby, or a young child or a young grandchild, you've got 20 or 30 years to build wealth. It's very easy to build hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth if you have a 20, 30-year time horizon, a long-term view. So what is your long-term plan? And so the $5 a day plan basically says, here's an amount of money, invest this amount of money in the S&P 500 every single week, and just set it and forget it. Don't even think about it. Just make sure that you do two things, that you always make the investment and that you don't sell those assets. If you do that, then in 20 years, you're talking about over 100,000 in liquid wealth approximately. And then 30 years, you're talking about 250,000. If you want to speed it up, then you double the amount. Instead of doing $5 a day, you can do $10 a day. $10 a day is $300 a month. For some of us, $300 a month is hard to do. For others, $300 a month, that might be your cell phone bill. That's less than your car note. So again, all I've really asked you to do is nothing radical, nothing crazy. The only thing that makes us radical is that we're not used to a world where black people actually solve problems as opposed to simply allow the problems to happen and complain about them. That's the world we live in. We live in a world where complaining about a problem is much more prominent than actually solving it. That's the only thing that makes us radical. But otherwise, this is very simple. It just says, look, do you love your child more than you love your car? And if the answer is yes, then why would you spend more on your car than on your child's future? That doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, I get it. It's because you've been brainwashed to think this way. That's what it is. So that's so let's sort of reconsider this. Let's look at all the possibilities here. All right, so let me share a couple more slides here, and then my me overcoming this illness is kind of dragging me a little bit. So I'm gonna try to make this a little bit short. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about culture and job culture. So a few things that our culture teaches us about jobs is that number one, this is the only way to get money. Like how many of you, when you said when you were 12 and you said I want money, somebody said, "Boy, you better get a job." Or you became 16 and you wanted to have money to go buy a car or whatever. It was like get a job, get a job, get a job, right? That's what the job culture is very, very big. And it works well for the capitalists. For capitalists at the top of the food chain, they really want everybody to have a job culture except for themselves. Jeff Bezos is not teaching his kids how to go get jobs. He's not. Elon Musk, his children are not being told, "Oh, go get a job." They're being told to get a capital base and take your capital base and use that capital base to give jobs to other people. So you got those two spaces. You got the job seekers and the job creators. I would like for a lot of our kids to become job creators because if we don't have any job creators, then we're going to be in trouble. All right. Also, you're taught that everybody has a job. That this idea that I give my kids about like telling them that literally going to work is optional. It's something that you can do if you really want to torture yourself. Um, that's seen as pretty radical. That's seen as crazy, but it's not crazy if you understand the things that I understand, right? The things that I want to share with you. Okay. Also, you're taught that jobs are not pleasant. You're taught that you're not supposed to enjoy going to work. Give me a yes or no if you saw this growing up. When I grew up, I never saw anybody say that they were happy to go to work. Give me a yes if that was your experience. I never really saw anybody say, "Oh my God, I'm going to work. I love my work. It's so fulfilling. I'm so excited. I can't wait." I never saw that. I saw, when I grew up, I remember my father was a cop, my mother was a social worker, and my wife's a social worker too. And back then, I just remember going to work was not seen as a pleasant thing. It was seen as torture. It was seen as something. It was a necessity. It was like, okay, because you've got a good work ethic and good values, you get up and you torture yourself by spending 8 or 9 hours a day in this place you don't even want to be so you can make sure you pay bills. It's not so you can get rich or become really successful. It was so you could survive. And now that I understand finance in the way that I do, the reason that you have to go to work is because nobody built a capital base for you. Nobody made a plan for you. If someone had made a plan for you and built a capital base for you, you actually wouldn't have to go to work. Because and as I explained to our youngest, I said, the difference for most people in America, the difference between freedom and slavery is about $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month. So the big challenge in life, the one challenge that I tell her is I said, the one thing, if you solve this one problem, it's going to free you for the rest of your life. You're going to get a chance to have the most fulfilling existence imaginable. And she said, "What's that?" I said, "The one problem you have to solve is how do I raise $5,000 a month? That's it." I mean, it doesn't mean 5,000 a month isn't going to make you rich. It's not going to make you, you're not going to be balling out of control. But 5,000 a month is where you've got enough money where you can pay your bills and, pay your cable and whatever, right? And keep your Wi-Fi on and have food, right? 5,000 a month will help you survive. So I said, look, if you can figure out how to make $5,000 a month, you can kind of at that point you kind of have the option of doing whatever you want. And you guys hear me talk about options a lot, and we talk about stock options. We do stock options training and stuff like that. But really, when I think about the word options, I think about it on a higher level. I'm thinking about just freedom, just the right and the ability to do what you want to do. And some options are inexpensive. Some options are very expensive. You know, like if I'm a slave in 1725, I have the option of not working if I want to, but the problem is that the cost of freedom becomes death, right? Because I would get killed for choosing not to work. So I understand why they could not and did not exercise that option. It makes perfect sense to me. But for you, the option of not working is it doesn't cost that much. It's not going to cost you your life. It just costs you a little bit of preparation time. It costs you maybe in terms of the courage to think differently from everyone else. That's the only price you pay. Your ancestors had to pay with their lives. You don't have to pay with your life. In fact, going to that job is going to take your life faster than being like in a free space. So the question becomes, are you willing to pay that price? So you can have that option. And when we do stock options class, a lot of you all understand. If you go and you look at your app and you try to buy a stock option, every single option costs money. Options are never free. Do you understand? Options are never free. And a translation of that is that freedom is not free. Freedom is not given. There's no stock option I can show you on the entire S&P 500 that you can get that where someone's just going to gift that to you, where someone's going to give it to you. If they give it to you, it ain't worth nothing. So all the black folks out here that I see that are waiting for white people to give us our freedom are absolute or have been tricked into becoming absolute fools. I'm not saying that you're a fool if you think that way. I'm saying you've been tricked into a fool's game. They're not going to give it to you. You're going to have to pay some sort of a price. What is that price going to be? Luckily, you don't have to die and you don't have to pick up a gun. All you got to do is think outside the box, not be scared, have a little discipline, and make a plan. If you have those things, then that option belongs to you. So then you have that option to go to work or stay home, and it's incredibly valuable. It's an excellent trade to use financial terms. Okay, so let me share. I saw one of y'all mention Vicks Vapor Rub. I did tell my wife to get me some at the store. I think she forgot. All right, so let's see here. So let's another thing about jobs that we're taught when we're young is that most of us expect to work for white people. Dr. Claude Anderson in his book Black Labor White Wealth explained that after slavery about 98% of all black people work for a white person. 200 something years later, 98% of all black people work for a white person. So that has not changed. We pretty much assume that the boss is going to be white and that the employees are going to be mixed, right? A lot of white employees, but black people will be on the other side of that fence. So let me give you some quick Dr. Boyce rules for the kids in my house. And the kids in my house don't just consist of the kids in my house. It consists of any young person who wants my advice. Some people listen, some people don't. I don't try to force people to listen if they don't want to. Number one, jobs are optional. That's something you do if it benefits you, if it's something that you love or something that you have to do, then you do it. But if you don't have to do, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Also, I let them know I'm going to give you an endowment. I'm going to do things like the $5 a day plan. So when all the kids go out into the world, I try my best to put something together to say, okay, here's some assets. If you leverage it and you use it properly, I'll show you what to do. Then you're going to be in a great situation. If you blow it, then that's on you. It's up to you. A lot of people have to go to work because they blew their opportunities. I will give you economic skills. That's another thing I'm pretty good at. So I talk to them about what it means to all the different ways there are to make money, all the different ways there are to have financial security. Also, I will give you economic values. They guide your decision making. So skills are important, but values are more important than skills sometimes because you can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't have the right values, then it doesn't matter. If I know how to shoot a gun, but my goal is to use that gun to murder people for no reason, then that's a problem. The skills are not beneficial to me because I have the wrong values. Do you understand? But if I know how to use a gun and I use that gun to protect people that I love, well, then there's a beautiful alignment between my skills and my values. So when I'm thinking about kids, we don't just want to give them skills, we want to give them values. What are some values that I would give black children? Some values that I would give black children as we turn them into the best economic soldiers on the planet is the number one value is you're here to serve your community. You're here to be black first. You're here to benefit the people that love you and pour it into you and the people that you love. That's your top priority. Those are the ones that you want to impress. Those are the ones that you're doing it for. You're not here to serve white folks. You're not here to serve people in China and other places. Black first. That's where you want to be. Every other community thinks this way. That's where we need you to be. That I would say that's probably the number one value system that is lacking, that needs to be really elevated. Because if you go to China, the Chinese, the way they turned their whole economy around, because they were the laughing stock of the world, they were in terrible shape, was they pushed a China first philosophy. They told the Chinese people, look, if you're not out, no matter what great thing you're doing, if you're not doing it to the benefit of China, then who cares? Nobody cares what you're doing if you're off in some other country doing great things. Bring that back to China. Bring that back home. You hook the family up first, and then we worry about the rest of the world. What are some other values? I think family values are beneficial. I think that understanding your role in supporting and helping others, particularly at least those who are in your household, your children, stuff like that, I think are great values to have. I think that individual people or individualized, overly individualized people or selfish people are not always good for the community. That's where you get with a lot of rappers and stuff like that who say, I have no obligation to the black community. I don't care about the black community. Those aren't good values. But then again, that's up to you to make that decision. Other Another value that might be something that you want to repeat is something that helps them understand that economics is a team sport across, that should exist across generations. So the work that you put in isn't just for the benefit of your boss. It is, and it also isn't just for the benefit of you. And then also, it's not just for the benefit of your family as it exists today. The work you do is also for the benefit of people that are going to be born after you. And that's a little bit of a tougher one. That requires a little more vision, right? It takes work, almost meditation for an 18-year-old to be able to visualize children that aren't going to be born for another 10 years. But if he can do that, if you go through that consciousness exercise, that financial consciousness training with that kid, then he's gonna literally be like a rocket ship in terms of having a massive head start on the competition. He's competing with other 48-year-olds, but he's already started the competition at the age of 18. It's like in track. Anybody ever, I don't know if anybody ever ran track or had a race with somebody. And in track, I remember, if you like, I ran the 100-meter dash, and the thing about the 100-meter dash is it was determined by who got the fastest start. A lot of times that was a big determinant in whether or not you could win. And I remember thinking it would be amazing to be able to run a 100-meter dash if I could get a running start. Because if you ever tried to run the 100 and you're running against somebody that gets a running start, you can't beat that person even if they're slower than you, because by the time you get your going full speed 40 meters later, they're already almost done. They're already 20 meters ahead of you. So I could probably beat, I don't know if I could beat an Usain Bolt, especially now, but let's take me at my peak when I was in high school and I ran against an Usain Bolt and I got a running start. I don't know if I'd beat him, but it would be a much different race. I could probably have beaten the state champion if I had a running start. So what is my point here? My point is to say that I want you to give your kids a running start. That's it. I want them to have a running start. A running start means that I'm literally thinking ahead to the point where I say, if I do these things right now, then the things that I'm doing, that I'm pouring into right now, are really going to be revved up in 10, 20 years from now. And I'm going to be so far ahead of everybody else. And that was, if you want to know one of my so-called secrets for success in my own life, that's what part of it was. I remember thinking when I was 20 years old, I said, I don't know if I'm going to have more kids, but I'm sure that when I have kids, I'm going to need money. So I'm going to bust my butt now so I can clear up time and resources so that when the kids come along, I'll be able to spend time with them. I'll be able to take the day off work. I'll be able to get them what they want. Right. So this was stuff that I did at the age of 20. And so when I talk to the kids and I tell them, I say, I was actually preparing for you 25 years ago. I was preparing for you 20 years before you were born. And now that's why I can take you to the dentist at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, is because I made sacrifices when I was 22 years old. If I had not made those sacrifices, understand this. If I had been like my friends, sitting around, getting drunk, smoking weed, being lazy, doing nothing, and not thinking about the future, I would not be able to spend this time with you because I would be at work right now. Do you understand? When people don't plan, then they lose. When you don't plan, when your plan is not the dominant plan, well, guess what? Massa's plan is the dominant plan. So you got a choice. We got a choice. Either we gonna make our plan for ourselves, or Massa gonna have a plan for us. You gonna make a plan for your children, or Massa will have a plan for your children. Which one is it? Make a choice because there's going to be a plan. There's always a plan. You think we got here by accident? You think America became what it is without somebody making a damn plan? Come on now. So that's it. That's all I want to say. I'm gonna go and blow my nose or something because I'm still a little bit under the weather. But anyway, couple of reminders. We are going to do a stock options summit in Los Angeles. I think the date is April, I believe. If you haven't texted the word stock to 87948, make sure you do that. I will text you all the link if you want to join us for the stock options summit in Los Angeles. It'll be one of our few live events this year. So we're going to do nothing but stock options for the whole weekend. So if you want to learn about stock options, which is really fun, stock options are pretty awesome. Then just text the word stock to 87948 and I'll send you the link once I get it from Micah, who's our team member. Secondly, if you want to get stuff on our kids, you can text the word youth to 87948. Text youth to 87948 if you haven't done that yet. Is that Prime training? Stuart Campbell asked. No, that's separate from Prime. But if you're a Prime member, then we can even give you a discount. If you want to take a look at what we do in Prime, Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. That's where we sell stock options to generate income. So if you're looking to increase your income or get some financial activity out of your stocks, then you can actually take a look at a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working. You can either get it on my website, boycewatkins.com, or actually, if you text the word money to 87948, I'll just send it to you right away. So text money to 87948. Yeah, I know, Bays. I never know the date. I need to know the date. So now that you put me on the spot, Bays, I got to fix that. So I'm going to get the date and I'm going to send it out this week. I promise you. So I apologize for that. Also, just one more thing. On is it Friday or Saturday morning? I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do our morning financial consciousness training Saturday or maybe even Sunday because I'm actually going to go to the Daytona 500 and and everybody should know about this and I hope you guys will take a minute to Google him. There's a young black man who is a NASCAR driver named LeVar Scott. LeVar Scott, I met him last year at the Daytona 500 and he needs sponsorship to drive. He's a great driver. He's got this big old car that just and he almost won the race. And I have so much respect for him. And so I met this brother and so I told him, I said, the Black Business School, yeah, we'd like to do a sponsorship deal with you. So we are going to sponsor a black NASCAR driver. His name is LeVar Scott, LaVarScott. I hope everybody listening will go look this brother up, follow him on Instagram, message him, encourage him. He's a young guy. He's about 20 years old. He's a wonderful kid. And I told LeVar, he texted me. He said, hey, Dr. Boyce, can you come to the Daytona 500 to watch me race? And it's funny, right? It's almost like cute, right? But he's not cute. He's like a grown ass man because he's driving his car 250 miles an hour around this track. And I said, absolutely, brother. I'm gonna clear my schedule and go down to cheer you on. And I'm actually going to take our son, who's also 20, because he likes cars, and I figured they should meet each other and stuff like that. But yeah, but look this brother up, and so yeah, we're going to sponsor him in some races, and depending on how the money goes, maybe we can sponsor him with some bigger stuff because that sponsorship is important. NASCAR drivers have to raise money to be able to race because this stuff is expensive. So that's one thing that we're doing. So Saturday and Sunday I may not be able to make it because I think I got to leave early in the morning to get to NASCAR, but I promise you I'll make it up. So I just want to let you guys know in advance. So anyway, have a great day, everybody. God bless you. Don't forget Dr. Claude Anderson, by the way. You can get his books at powernomics.com. And I hope this training did something for you today. I hope that you guys are feeling ready to go conquer the world like I am. And I'm not going to conquer nothing. I'm going to go conquer my bed, I think, because I'm starting to feel a little bit. So y'all have a great day and happy birthday. Somebody said it was their birthday. I didn't see that. Hold on, wait a minute, wait. We got a birthday. This thing is frozen. Daggone it. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed. I saw somebody say, "Oh, Angel Maria." Everybody say happy birthday to Angel in the chat real quick. Say happy birthday, Angel, real quick, because we got to do that before we go. She's our family, so we got to wish her a happy birthday. All right, and so happy birthday, Angel, and God bless you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. So take care now. Bye bye.